FreeSalonEducation.com invites you to join us every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for live and interactive classes from your favorite free salon education educators. So grab a mannequin, get set up, and make sure to share your results using the hashtag FreeSalonEducation. FSE Live starts now.
Guys, this is Matt Beck from FreeSalonEducation.com. There we go. So we're here today, FSE Live. This is number 10. Pretty much everybody's here. Justin's on his way, traffic or something, I don't know. But we got Brian Hare with us, Drea Bolin. Right, I'm sure, yeah. So, and we got Thad Bolin, as you can see. So today we're going to go over a haircut that you guys requested. Actually, Kristen Myers came through on the Free Salon Education community, and she requested the Michelle Williams haircut from the Louis Vuitton ad, and I spelled Vuitton wrong. So we're going to fix that. But she requested the Michelle Williams haircut. I'm excited to do this haircut because there's a lot of aspects to it, and I think we've done, some basic haircutting over the last few times that we've met together. So just so you guys know, we have the live chat open. A lot of you are already typing on that. If you're watching this live, if you're watching it later, make sure you tune in every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. and you can be a part of that chat room. So we're going to go through, we're going to use our scissors to cut this. You could use a razor if you wanted to. I like using scissors. I'm not really, I don't use the razor that often in the salon, so I don't want to pretend and do it in front of you guys, for these type of haircuts. So I'll show you guys some different techniques, but you absolutely could use a razor with this if you wanted. The key aspects of this haircut, Thad, if you want to pull up the first image. Yeah, perfect. So the key thing with this haircut is there's a big disconnect through the interior part. And I think a lot of people make the mistake when they're cutting this is they don't take the part deep enough within the haircut, because if you see, it's wrapped around her head and kind of flows over to the side. But if she wanted to, she didn't have to part it that deep, and the rest of the hair would fall down and become part of that haircut. So that disconnection would completely go away. So you've got the really short side in here, and if you don't part it deep enough, you're going to have all this side short, and there's nothing she'll be able to do about it later on. So just make sure that your part's nice and deep. We're going to be working with pushing the hair in this direction, so we'll cut more of a triangular shape on top. We're going to work through the back. If you show the side view, Thad. The thing I love about this haircut is it does have kind of a graduated feel throughout the back of the haircut. So it's a lot of texture, a lot of graduation. You have that short disconnection in the very front of the haircut, and then the top is completely disconnected from that. So when I saw this haircut in this picture, I thought Kristen did a great job, because it's not just, she showed me a blurry picture and said, I can't wait to learn this. She showed 3 different angles of the haircut, so we can get a really good idea of what this haircut should look like, and then we can break it down step by step. So I'm not saying that this is how this haircut was done, but if it was brought to me in the salon, this is how I would do it. So we're going to start off in the back of the haircut.
Do you want the third photo?
Not yet. I mean, we'll show the third photo when we go to the top. So
we're going back to you.
Back to me. Yeah. So right in here, we're going to start working. I'm going to take a section. I already parted off, obviously, parietal ridge. I pretty much did parietal ridge on both sides. What that does for me is that even if she has a side part, most of the time we're not making the side part all the way down to the parietal ridge. If they do, then go a little deeper. But for the most part, parietal ridge is a pretty solid starting point. So we section that off in a horseshoe shape section, coming right through mid-crown. And then what we're going to do is take a vertical section straight down the back, so straight down center back, and that's going to be our starting point with this haircut. I'm going to part the 2 sides over, and like I say, in every haircut that I'm doing with you guys, we're just going to keep it really clean throughout the whole haircut, and make sure that we're adjusting the mannequin or the guest, properly. It's not going out, right? Yeah, we're good. It's okay. I don't need up here.
Yeah,
so.
you're good.
All right, so we're going to work right at the occipital bone. So I'm going to take from the occipital bone over. Now, based on the size of your guest head and the head shape of your guest, you may take a have a larger head, then I would not go as far up as the occipital bone. This mannequin has a pretty tiny head, so it's okay to take that much hair at a time. So we're combing all that over. I'm going to clip. Whenever you're taking sections in a haircut, the best thing to do is that hair nice and tight over. You don't have to twist it all up because that way you're going to be working on the rest of this hair eventually anyways. So if I just put a clip up into it instead of trying to clip down, the hair will stay up and it will stay exactly where I want it. So as soon as I take that clip out, the hair is already in the direction of the part that I want. So my flow becomes a lot faster. So even though I section both sides off here, what I'm going to do is I'm still going to split these because I'm going to be working on each side. I just wanted to get my section ready for the next part of the haircut. So I'm going to be working diagonal. Diagonal seems to be easiest for me, especially when I'm working with shorter lengths. See if I can tilt her head a little bit more. Might be best if I move over here with that. Does that seem good or no?
Could you come back like maybe just like a step closer to?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right, so diagonal forward section. And I'm not going to start off by cutting any guideline right away because I don't want a solid guideline in this haircut. I want it to have more of a textured feel towards the bottom. So everything's going to be elevated, no lines flat on the head. So I'm going to start this nice and short. So working diagonal forward, cutting palm to palm. And the big thing you'll see here is everything came straight out, and then I shift my finger angle because the head shape shifts. So I want the same balance of weight throughout the whole haircut, or throughout the back of this haircut. So my finger angle was here, and then it shifts down and changes a slight bit.
So Matt, do you do that with all your short haircuts, like so that way you have like a softer perimeter around the?
If I want a softer perimeter, yeah.
Okay.
It just depends on what we're looking for. Right now, I'm not worried about building up a graduation at this point, so everything's being cut straight out from the head. I will have a slight weight line here, but for the most part, I'm collapsing this part, and then the top or the middle part of the haircut's going to fall over top and create that graduation. So we're really just removing this weight from the bottom right now.
No, I feel like the kind of guests that I have that are going to bring me this haircut are going to be the ones that have a much skinnier density of hair.
Yeah.
What are you going to change back here to make sure that it doesn't collapse too much so that you can still maintain shape?
Well, even if you look at somebody that has a lower density of hair, that doesn't necessarily mean you want to keep a heavy weight line, because if they have a lower density of hair, the longer that hair is, the more it's going to collapse anyways. So you need these shorter pieces in a haircut, even if they have a low density of hair, because the shorter, it's kind of like, somebody said to me one time, if you run a tape measure out, as soon as it gets to it, it falls to the ground because gravity pulls it down, right? It's the same thing with hair cutting. Even if you have a fine fabric, if I hold this right here, even though it's a fine fabric, it stays straight and it's pretty firm at that point, right? But if I were to hold, this piece of hair out here, then it falls over. So even if they have a fine fabric and a lower density of hair, I still want to have some of those shorter pieces in there to build up that strong weight right at that occipital, and then we'll leave a little extra weight right here on the top. So
maybe even keep it a little on the shorter side.
Yeah.
To help make sure you got the foundation.
Yep.
Cool.
Matt, you have a question here.
Yeah.
It's from a beginner. Wouldn't it be easier and faster if you would cut big chunks and then just cut it all nice, then cutting it nice and perfect like you are?
Okay, that's a good question. So the reason that you wouldn't want to cut it into big chunks is kind of what I was just saying. So if you go in and you don't cut structure in fine hair, and you're just hurrying through to get done, you're not going to have the structured lines. And if you don't have structured lines within your haircut, then there's nothing for the hair to sit on. So for instance, let's say I have this mannequin. Let me get this clipped away first. So let's say I'm going through and I'm doing this haircut, and I just go in and I want to quickly just take this whole thing, cut it. Haircutting works in 3 dimensions, and that's something that, any class that you're going to take, you're going to probably learn sort of in that way. Now, the 3 dimensions are how much weight do I want to push left and right? How much weight do I want to leave or take off from up and down, basically? And then where do I want, when you're looking at it, how much density do you want to keep in the haircut? So if I just grab all this hair, and yes, I could, in a hurry, just grab all this, hold it here, and then point cut through it and have it fall pretty okay, right? But the challenge with that is we're going to make it look nice in the salon. It's going to look like it works. Then when the guest goes home and they want to recreate this style at their house, they're going to have trouble because there's no structure put into it. You haven't told the weight where to go, so the weight's going to be all over the place. You haven't decided how much weight you want to remove or keep, so it could be too heavy in places that you didn't want it to. So you can't just go in and take out a bunch of hair and just get done with the haircut. You have to really go in, take each line, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the graduated bob, but if I take thick sections, as soon as I grab all this hair in my hand, you can see, and hopefully Thad, if you want to zoom in, let me see if I'll twist this up.
Too high.
Yep. Let me lower. Whoa. I know. So let me comb this straight out. And I'll twist it so you guys can kind of get a better angle of it. But you see here, if I were to grab this whole section and hold it straight out, just like this, and cut it, right? I'm pulling all this hair from way down here to my fingers, and I'm pulling all this hair from up here to my fingers. So what we're getting is we're collapsing it in the center, and we're stretching it from everywhere else. So we all know if we over direct hair, it goes the other way, right? So if I'm cutting this hair just like this, and I make that cut, I've now pushed weight to the bottom, and I've kept weight on top, and in the center is the shortest point. So there's no structure involved in that. If I were to go in and take these small sections through here, I'm not over directing the hair up or down at all, and I'm just deciding how much weight and how much length I want to take off the haircut. So that's really the best way to, when you're cutting a precision cut, you just have to take little bits at a time, and then that way you don't have to worry about the over direction and putting hair where you didn't want it in the first place.
Now, if you were looking just to remove like some of the bulk, would you think that that'd be advantageous, or do you think that that would just like add additional time to the haircut?
The reason that people have to go in, I believe, and remove extra bulk is because they didn't do what they wanted to do in the first place.
I'm talking about like before you got started with the precision like haircut, like this mannequin has a lot of hair on it. Like if you had a guest who had hair that was like halfway down her back or longer and wanted this haircut, would you go through and like cut like ponytails off? Would you like remove some of the length, or would you just go like straight into it?
Okay, I know what you're saying. I like if they have long hair just like this. I mean, if it was down to the floor, I'd obviously cut a blunt line across. But at this length, I like it because it's easier to section, it's easier to keep clean. It's when they come in for the haircut, the second haircut is when it's the hardest because you're working with all that short hair.
Absolutely.
So I definitely would say to just do the haircut with the hair the way it is.
Cool.
So we're still shifting in. I haven't changed the angle at all, but what's changed is her head shape angle. So you're starting to see how this hair is building up in there, and that's exactly, if you go to the side view of Michelle Williams' hair, you start to see that weight building up, and that's what you see in her haircut too. So it builds up the weight and then it tucks into her neck. That's what we're trying to create. Now the reason that I haven't changed my finger angle is this was all straight out from the head, and now as I work up, the head starts to move away, so the weight starts to build up no matter what. Basically, you could take your comb, put it here, and you're going to see that this is pretty close to the head, and as it gets further away, that's where that bulk's going to sit in. So you can kind of judge that angle that you want that hair to sit at just by looking at your comb and kind of judging it that way. Yeah. I like diagonal because, first off, if you work, well, we talked about it again a couple weeks ago, but if you work horizontally, you're focused mostly on the shape of the haircut. So really, how much hair are you over directing back, but you're not worried so much about how much weight you're keeping or removing. So when you look at diagonal, you're kind of hitting both angles in that. It's just like if you were to place a diagonal foil as opposed to a horizontal foil or a vertical foil, you're going to get a more blended effect than a vertical foil, but not as blended as a horizontal. So and plus it's a comfort thing. This is easier than me having my elbow up here or me having my elbow all the way down here. I can pretty much, this is a comfortable way for my body position to be. So you can go. It's really important to make sure you focus on that elevation because you don't want to drop it too far down, because what's going to happen is that weight will start to push too much behind the ear, and you really want it to be nice and soft right behind the ear.
Someone asked, would this cut look much different if you use vertical partings on the back and sides? Like, could you get there with it?
Yes.
Okay. But for ease and understanding, you're going with diagonal.
I'm going with diagonal because that's what I would do. You know, you could go horizontal and vertical very easily, and it wouldn't be a big deal. It just works for me. Basically my finger angle is as I'm trying to create in the head.
Right.
So it just makes the most sense for me when I'm cutting this shape.
And like I can see it sitting here. I don't know if the camera picks it up as well. Well, now it can't because it's covered. But when you actually like look at it, you can see the angles cut into it.
Right. Yeah. So now we've created that structure on the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on top of my hands, and we're going to get into the fun part that you guys like. We'll do a little point cutting just to soften.
Hey, Matt, you're going to have to lower the...
Lower the mannequin? That is unacceptable. How's that?
That should be good.
Better?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get into the point cutting. I am going to follow. So we did have that buildup of weight, and you can see it right here. You can see that little bit of angle. So I don't want to cut that corner off. I want to go past that, and then I'm just going to point cut the hair through. So that will still lay. So you can see how it still lays nice and full, but tucks right into the neck, just like the haircut that we're going for here.
As you're doing this, Matt, someone asked a question. When I'm cutting with elevation, I'm always losing my angles. Any advice? Pretty please.
I think the way that you don't lose your angles is, I mean, it happens to everyone, but the best way to do it is just to make sure that you're consistent with all your combing and you're consistent with your body position. So like you can see here, and I got to go over this real quick, but everything I'm doing is all the same. So the small sections, just like I said, that's what's really important. Make sure that you're not taking too big of sections, and then you shouldn't have any issues, because like you can see here, there's the thing that we would think is a guide, but that's a disconnection that I want to leave underneath there. And then I comb up and I can see that angle that I've been cutting. That is my guide right there. So you just really, small sections is the key. I know everyone's in a rush to get their haircuts done because they have a guest waiting, not that they don't want to take a lot of time on them. But the more time you take on a haircut wet, the less time you're going to spend blowing it dry because it's already drying. So I think when you speed through a haircut and spend 5 minutes on it, all of a sudden you're spending a lot more time drying because it's so wet. And this way you can kind of have the best of both worlds. So.
And with that being said, what is your go-to right now for products there on the Denver side while
Well,
cutting gel?
because I've been playing with the Mercado stuff quite a bit lately, and we're going to cut into that guy.
Hey, man,
But,
quick
yeah.
question. What is Justin's mic labeled bad?
Yep. Couldn't hear him.
We need to hear it more.
Ask my question again. All right. My question again is, what is your favorite cutting gel to be using at this moment in time?
So can we grab the Mercado gel?
Well, here's a good one.
Oh yeah, I like this.
Now
question
the
a lot.
gel.
Matt, while he's finding gel, Marion from Sweden says, in Sweden, we don't use pointing that much, and I'm scared to try. Any tips for a beginner? It looks so hard.
So I just put together a list of all these videos that I want to make. I think I put together like 25 videos because we've just been so focused on these live classes, which are great, but we want to, get back to the shorter 3-minute videos for you guys that are just quick tips. Point cutting was one of them because I watched a video of a couple guys that were taking hair and, they're coming through and point cutting. They're doing a lot of weird stuff. And I think point cutting is as simple as what I've said in a lot of my classes throughout. You want to point towards somebody else, towards your buddy.
That's where
And
they
then-
get the definition, point cutting.
Right. Point towards somebody else, then point it right back at you, and then that's how you're going to go through and point cut. Because if you go through like this is how a lot of people point cut. But first off, you can see that blade. Thad, do you want to go to the closer one real quick? So when I don't want to cut myself, right, I'm going through here, and I want the point cutting the way I'm talking about. Let's see. There we go. So the point cutting the way I'm talking about is you point it away from your body, then back towards yourself. And then you have your steady blade going across your fingers, and it allows you to go through. You can change the angle of how much weight you want to take out of the haircut or how piecey you want the haircut to be. And then if you shift it and you point cut the way that you see a lot of people point cutting, you could see that blade that moves is actually attacking your finger. So
Attacking the finger.
yeah, so this way, this is how you're going to definitely cut yourself. But not only that, now that we can see the full angle, this is way more comfortable and looks a lot better than this. So, and no one really wants to have their elbow up in the air like that. So,
Or cutting their fingers.
Or attacking their fingers.
so here's one thing that now we're going to move into. So you can see this disconnection. I like having that there. You guys could keep it there if you want to, and then remove all of that weight from the side. That's up to you. I'm going to connect these two sides together. So I'm going to start by now taking, so this has all been diagonal forward. Now I'm going to work diagonal back. And somebody asked me about combination cutting before, and that's really what it is. It's just combining the basic shapes of hair cutting to create different looks. So we're going to combine what was triangular and now cut a round shape which follows the round of the head and works its way back. So we're going to, I'm going to scoop underneath. I'm going to elevate just a little bit because I want to push a little bit of length down along the cheek, but not much. So just a slight elevation.
Hey, Matt, before you cut that, can you move a little bit to your left?
This
No, to your left.
to my left,
The other left.
There we
like
go.
that.
I think
Okay.
that will be a nice,
Okay.
it could be wrong.
So here is straight out from the head, and here is where we're going to cut it. So just a little bit higher than you normally would. and I'll recomb. Again, we're following the head shape, so my feet will now be moving and sliding. So you can see it's just a little slight bit, of course the mannequin sticks out a little bit, but a slight bit of length down there, which we want, keeps it a little more feminine to me, in my opinion. But
And I think this is really where people who first start doing these cuts get scared.
yeah,
I mean, taking that much length off the front and seeing all that weight in the back, and then they freeze.
right.
And they have to just kind of work past.
But we know that I love mullets, so I'm not.
You do. Actually, I
I'm
forgot.
not scared one bit right now.
I took a picture for you yesterday. There's a gentleman getting out of a pickup truck, and he had a beginner mullet, and I took a picture of it.
A
'Cause it was that-
beginner mullet?
Yeah, it was like a mullet in training. It was like mullet training wheels, and
Alright.
I felt you would enjoy it
Out of a truck.
because he happened to own a pickup truck.
Okay, so now I did comb up on the first section, but you never want to comb your. Oop, I got another one. You never want to comb your
It's his twin.
guide into the new hair. So I combed up on the first one just to get that little bit of elevation in there. But now I'm going to comb the hair down into my guide. So we're going to find that guide underneath, right there. And we're going to cut through. And instead of just letting that tiny little corner, so you guys can see how it comes out, but there's that tiny little corner, and that corner will add a lot of weight if you don't remove it. So you want to make sure that you grab just that little bit and walk around the head, and you can see there's the edge in the corner there. Those tiny little details will change your haircut. So if you want this to be a true round feel to the haircut with a seamless feel to it, you got to remove the weight lines in there. So we're combing back. And again, I'm keeping that hair kind of in the direction that I'm going to take it later on. Working around the head. And now we had this kind of longer disconnect from the back. I'm actually going to tie that in just a little bit, just the edge of it, into what we're cutting now, because I don't really want all that length in there anyways. So just that disconnect is going to now connect with the front, just to make that make a little more sense to you guys. We're working through, so when I cut this top part, we were over directing it up, so we got a lot of length that fell down in here. So when I go through and I'm cutting this kind of undercut feel to the bottom, I just go through and I just pass through that section a little bit and connect that disconnection, so that we don't have, she doesn't have a ton of length on that side. She doesn't in the picture anyways, so it's a good way to get rid of it. Lost you dry. So I'm adjusting the head as I work, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to stay consistent with my elevation. If I keep chasing the head shape as it kind of folds back, then my elevation is going to change as well, and you're going to get weight in places that you don't want. So and again, this is why you would want to make sure that you went past her parting, because if she was going to part right here, then you would have just this exposed, and that's not really what the haircut's all about. So I think what people like most about this haircut is that the top is disconnected and kind of wraps around the front, and it just exposes that the rest of the haircut just a little bit, but it's not too extreme. Hey, can you still see this angle good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
I picked a bad seat. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this tonight because I can't see over there.
Brian's here and he's got the worst seat in the house.
Oh well.
It looks great, Brian, from my view. Just saying.
Well, good.
All right, I'm gonna leave this little piece disconnected for later. So I'm gonna comb that back. I'm gonna do a little scissor over comb. So I'm gonna grab a longer shear. So obviously I'm using all Mizutani. There was a question about that last week because everyone saw the gold scissor. Well, the gold scissor is Mizutani as well.
But what kind is it?
So, well, the gold one is based on the Ichi Nino San #1, which was the FSE scissor, but we did a limited run, so it's not available anymore. And this is the Blacksmith Fit 6.5. I like a longer scissor for scissor over comb because if you ever see somebody comb and they're inching at it, trying to get that line, well, that's because you don't have a long enough blade, and you really want to go through here and just have one cut through it. This is really just to, soften the edges. Obviously, when I'm holding things in my fingers, is going to lay a little bit different than how it lays naturally. So going through with the looser teeth of the comb and just kind of lifting that hair up and cutting it almost at its natural state is the best way to get a real natural feel to it.
Hey, Matt, can you spin just ever so slightly to your right, I think? Yeah, that gives us a little bit better. Scissor comb is always so difficult to get on camera.
All right, and we have that disconnection in there still, so we're going to leave that cutting with that piece when we're done. All right, now I'm going to go through, and the other side's a little easier. Thad, if you want to show the other side real quick, the image of it. So this one does kind of have a disconnected feel as well, but it's not as, I'm going to say it's not as undercut. Obviously, I'm not hanging out with her, so I don't know exactly what her hair looks like underneath. But we're going to go with not quite as disconnected. So still short, still has the Pixie feel, but not as extreme. Justin, is there a spray bottle over there? Look at you guys.
I'm gonna throw it like Mardi Gras.
Ooh,
Nice.
skills. That makes up for my beer pong skills.
He's been
No, it
practicing
doesn't.
people, so make sure
No, I
you pick
know it
him
doesn't.
every night.
Never will. All right. So we're going to keep the hair saturated just so that the haircut, has the same feel all the way throughout. Water changes the density of the hair and kind of makes it stick together. So if you're looking to have consistency in your haircut, you can't cut half of it wet, half of it dry. And like I said before at the beginning, with if you take your time on a cut, like this is already drying. So it's only going to take me a few minutes to actually blow it dry because I spent that extra time on the haircut. So again, people ask me about the diagonal. Diagonal is a lot easier on both angles of the head. So take my guide from the back here and work across diagonally. Only difference now is my finger angle is pointed down, and that is for consistency because I want to cut both sides basically the same. That doesn't mean that my finger angle stays the same or my hand position stays the same. It just means that the actual way that I'm cutting the hair stays the same. And then again, we split the middle in half. The mid part of the head, basically low crown. That part will still be cut diagonal forward, and then we'll move into some point cutting through the mid crown area. So you should be focused on two things when this is happening. Is your clean parting, but then how my finger angle is here, and if it's following that, and also the elevation, but then where my hand is in this area. And I want it to be straight out from the head, because if I over direct at all, I'm creating too much of a weight buildup in the haircut. So really stay focused on not over directing it and not taking too much hair in your hand at a time. So we can see that slight angle there. And now I'm going to cut down to the ear with my parting. Comb this back, and we're going to work on a slight diagonal back through the top. Mid crown, I guess.
Hey, Matt, you're going to have to lower.
Lower.
Stop making me move my client.
How's that?
It looks perfect.
All right, I'm going to follow my guide from the previous side. And we're going to point cut through. Traveling guide through here though. So once I make that first cut, we are moving across the head.
Hey, Matt. We have another question. Might it be a weird question? When combing the hair, you're putting the scissors away from the head. I always pull it in my hand, or I always put it in my hand. Can you show how to do it, but slow?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to, they call it palming your scissors. You know, I don't really know if there's, to be honest, it's kind of just, this is a habit that I thought was cool 10 years ago that I still can't get out of at this point. But what I do is when I have my scissor in my hand, I flip it back. So I'll push it back with my pointer finger into my palm, and I catch it. You catch it with your pinky. There's the camera here. So you catch the scissor with your pinky, and then when I release it, I let go with my pinky, and I just pull it, swing it out. So push it back with my pointer finger, and then release it and catch it. A lot of people will push it back and then just pull it back with their thumb. That works. I wish I could just do that.
But you're a ninja.
But I am a ninja, officially, yes. Black belt in haircutting ninja.
But there's a disclaimer on that. If you're a student, do not get in that habit.
Yeah.
Because if you are at a state board exam and they see you doing that, a lot of states I've interacted with will fail you for that.
Some states, because I was in PA and I was swinging them all over the place. So I'm not sure. It depends on the state.
Of course.
But definitely.
PA is only written now.
It is?
Like Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
And Florida. I think Florida's like that too. Yeah. Yeah, I know New Jersey, they'll just fall off with your head. I think California too.
I was gonna say Maryland will dock you a point, but only 1 point for flipping your shears. So
Maybe I got
like,
docked then. I didn't know.
Maybe.
I had points to spare.
But
You get a point.
it's not like they knock it off for every single time you do it. It's just only once.
Right. All right, guys. So you can see. Turn this on, actually. So you can see, we haven't cut the side yet, but you can see how the angle just tucks in nice. That's why I like cutting with the diagonal. I mean, obviously you can get it with any angle you want. But now I'm going to connect the side, working diagonal forward. So we'll clip that up. And I'm going to connect it to a piece right in here. So you can see underneath here, that's what I want to connect it to. To me, that just kind of adds to the flow of the haircut. But I'm still going to work with the round of the head, so not over directing back at all, softening that line in there. You can see. Diagonal forward. You're going to see some longer lengths in there because this top part that falls over is disconnected because I was over directing everything up. So that short underneath is what we're basing all of this, the rest of the cut on. So don't connect it to that top part. And don't be afraid to go pretty short on this half of the head because that whole entire top is going to fall over. And if you don't go short enough, and if you don't remove enough weight, it's going to be really thick and dense on that side when you let that top fall over it.
Matt, when you have 2 seconds, we got a question about how tight or loose the shears should be. And I know there's that fun little trick of when you hold them and drop the one blade, this is about where it should close to.
Yeah, if you want to talk about that, that's fine. We should make a video about that too.
All right.
Put it on the list, number 26.
There's a little test that you can do just to see, because putting scissors away in their little pouch or wherever you put them, sometimes you hit the little screw that can tighten them or loosen them. And like she's noticing right here, if they're too loose, it just opens and bends the hair and isn't cutting and just doesn't give you the tightness that you need to really slice that hair off nice and even. So the little test that I always do is when you hold them up in one hand, I can't think right now because I'm not holding scissors which side you hold, but when you drop one of the blades, it should close most of the way.
The thumb blade is supposed to close most.
I think you hold the side with the tang and drop the thumb.
Yeah.
And then when it drops, it should close most of the way, but not all the way. Like that.
And my scissors are a little tighter because I do the stupid ninja swing thing. So you can't really...
Because you don't know as to whether or not you're holding shears or butterfly knives.
Well, yeah, when you go to swing them around, they'll fly open if you have them not a little tighter. So it's probably not good for the scissor. I wouldn't recommend it. But, you know, it is what it is. So now as I work through the top, the very last section, and the way that I work with hair cutting is I was working like this, but now I'm not comfortable with my elevation and holding my hands up this way. So instead of going diagonal forward, I'm going to work diagonal back. There's no difference in the cut. It's not going to change the cut. What it's going to do is it's almost like I'm cross-checking, but I'm just adding in some of that hair. So if you look at when I go to pull this hair up here, I've actually got my angle already in the haircut. So I'm just going to follow that angle working diagonal back and almost cross-check my haircut at the same time. So if I see any weird steps. Now the biggest thing with this is you want to make sure anytime you're cross-checking that I'm not over-directing the hair anywhere that it wasn't in the first place. So because everything was cut flat at the head, everything needs to be taken out in small sections straight out from the head. So we'll work our way back. You can see that angle right there. So it's a good guide for me. And then I run into my disconnection, which I do not want to cut because I like how that disconnection falls within the haircut. We'll cut that dry in a sec. Top's pretty easy. So I'm going to go through the top. This on her haircut is kind of wrapped around and has that feel. We're going to pretend like we're not cutting it that way because that's not the whole purpose. You want this haircut to be versatile and work in a couple different scenarios, so not always showing that disconnection. So I'm going to part it where she would want to part it if she was going to wear the haircut regular. So we'll comb all that down. All right. Now, we're going to first off work. I need to lower this, Thad. That's fine.
They're good.
You just need to bounce back to that other one. It's good. So I'm going to part off of basically the center point. So we're going to look at this as a pinwheel around. We want the weight to be shoved mostly to this side. So everything on this side, this portion, is going to be over-directed back to our desired point with the amount of weight that we want. So I'll kind of go over that once we get to that point. But right now I want to blend the front and back. So first section of the pinwheel, I'll turn this so you guys can see. That good? Yeah. So the first section of the pinwheel, and we're going to just go in and connect it.
Matt, you're going to want to drop that.
Drop what?
The mannequin head.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're missing the point cutting.
That's all we got. You might have to go the other angle. So we'll go through, point cut with the round of the head again, nice and soft. Take our next part of the wheel here, over directing up, using that previously cut as a guide through there. Same thing. Point cutting through. And now I'm not directing, but not too crazy. But I definitely I'll show you guys the over direction. And this is again all based on density. So this last little bit, we'll bring it back. It'll be over directed to just right at the ear, maybe a little bit behind, which will give us that angle in the front. So if she wanted to, she could wear this part down. And if you see it's a little more see-through than you want it to be, then you could go through and just add a little bit more to it. But I think it's good. Now we've got all that fun part going there. So now we're just going to work on this side. Key part here, I'm going to bring everything to me. We got our guide right there. So again, I'll do a little point cutting.
Matt, do you want to spin to your left a little bit?
Yep. I would love to, Thad.
Awesome.
Working diagonal back, but over directing towards myself. So still creating that kind of push forward with the weight, triangular feel to it. And just adding a lot of texture to the top part of the haircut. And even though we're cutting a lot of texture in it, doesn't mean I don't want to get all those little loose hairs off the scalp first before I cut. Yes.
You get one more little elusive guy up here. There you go.
Join the party.
Come play with the rest of us.
All right. Then when we comb this over, it's got a nice length off to the side. So now I'm going to quickly blow this dry. And then we're going to do some dry cutting to really just tie it all together. Yeah. Whoop. I want to use the blow dryer to really lay down how the mannequin's hair grows out as well. So that will help with the overall look.
So somebody had asked earlier what kind of color you would suggest for this kind of haircut.
I like blonde.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's, I actually, you know, I think blonde goes best with it. I had a bunch of brown mannequins that I could have used, and I didn't want to because I don't feel like it'll showcase the haircut the same. And usually blonde hair is a little more textured, has a little less density. You know, so personally I would say blonde, like a blonde with any kind of, yeah.
Well, I think doing obviously some balayage or some highlighting through the top will really showcase the disconnection a little bit more.
Yeah.
And just make it visually a little more eye-catching. Because it's a great haircut, but there's so much structure put into it. If it's all one color, you might lose some of that when it's sitting there.
Yeah.
So however your preferred method of creating a really cool dimension, just having there be something a little bit different through that disconnection in the top than through the bottom, I think will really just show off all the work that you put in haircut-wise.
Something along the lines of your jack-o'-lantern block color would look really cool on this too, especially on the top and the that more longer side.
Yeah.
I think your client Jamie would probably look really good with this one. Oh, Jamie Novak.
What about it?
She would look good with the haircut.
So I'm just working with a flat wrap, normal kind of technique, working the front back and forth. Really just so that I don't have any kind of calic or anything get in the way of the dry cutting. I don't know where all my products are.
On the shelf?
I'm looking for the medium. Oh, it's up there, I think.
Every time Thad ninja crawls, I want the Mission Impossible theme song to play.
But what cracks me up, Thad's
That's the
ninja
gel
crawling past the cameras,
and
and
oil.
he's in control of what cameras are showing.
The what?
I said Thad's ninja crawling so the cameras don't see him, but he's in control of what cameras are filming.
Yeah, but the two cameras are right next to each other.
This is just a medium hold hairspray from Bricado. I like it, especially right when the hair is about dry. It helps with some of the flyaways, and then just gets a nice hold in there. It smells good too. So. This is my favorite thing about this haircut. That if you want to go to the other, you could see the texture in it. So that disconnection underneath, but then as this flows over, which we're going to cut into obviously, but as that flows over, it's just got all this fun disconnected pieces that come over top of it as well. So when we get into the dry cutting, it's going to be really fun to add all that texture into that and really let the haircut come to life.
Wrap drying master.
And I'm going to smooth this a bit with the good old vibrating vibra-straight iron. I don't want to straighten it too much though. I just really want to smooth out the ends in the longer part.
Attention chat room. I am unable to communicate. Matt's computer turned off and I don't know the password.
Uh-oh.
We got the rock stars on it. It's fine.
All right. Almost finished.
Matt, the double-sided Mizutani texturizers, where are they to acquire?
Where are they?
Like, do we have them anymore, or is it just Mizutani?
Oh no, they're on Shop FSE.
Okay, cool.
I'm actually going to go through with some texturizers, but we're going to use the Acroleaf Wide, which has a dry cutting blade, so it's a little fatter. It kind of has a rounder shape to it, so it's going to slide through the hair a lot better. And is it's not so. I don't know how many teeth this one has, but I didn't want to go with like the really wide texturizing teeth. We're going with more of a medium feel to them.
With the wider teeth, wouldn't you touching shear than a texturizing shear?
Yeah, I mean it creates a lot. I don't really use that one as much as these.
Now, Matt, when would you use a texturizing shear over just like a dry cutting technique with a dry cutting shear? Is that just personal preference?
Personal preference. When I'm going through here, I really want to soften right now all these disconnections. So it's a little more forgiving using a texturizing scissor than it is a dry cutting scissor. Because dry cutting scissor, you're really removing everything, as you cut through. So we're just going to go through here. I'm sliding through, really just sliding through that disconnection, not getting into the undercut part of it because I want to soften this. And I want to look at how this is going to lay for her, and when we're thinking about a guest in the salon, how it's going to lay for her when she styles it.
Can you spin the mic? I see you cutting in the back.
Yep. So you can see how this stuff falls over. So it has a nice cover up, but then when she goes to part it, then that disconnection gets exposed. And I want that disconnection to expose a little bit more than it actually is. So I'll just go through and really remove some of this length in there.
Actually, your thoughts on this while using a thinning shear? Have you seen the techniques where they get like 2 different pairs of thinning shears in their hands at once?
Some people drive me crazy.
And
I think.
How do you feel about those?
I think it's silly. Everything should have a purpose. Like, and I'm definitely the guy that the first thing I learned in beauty school is how to spin my scissors because I thought it was cool. So I'm not the guy that I understand the flashy and everybody wanting to be flashy when they're cutting hair, but everything should have a purpose. Like all this stuff that I'm cutting, all of this disconnection, it was cut on purpose, so I don't want to take it all out. What I want to do is just soften into it, and really just, we're fine-tuning everything. We got into dry cutting last week, and you know, I'm going to do it again because every haircut finish dry. So even I work diagonal forward, so I'm just going to clean up some of this with scissor over comb just to fine tune that back. I really want it to fall nice and sleek. And then, even though I elevated all this so we don't have a real straight line in the back, I'm going to go through and use the point of my scissor and soften the back of the haircut. And when I'm working through here, scissor over comb, even though I lift it up horizontally, I'm looking at my angles that I created diagonal. So that doesn't mean I'm going in here and now making sure this is a horizontal line in the haircut. I'm just going through and checking it in all angles to make sure that it's falling the way I want it to. All right, now we come to the front. And the front, I think, is the key thing that people love about this haircut besides the disconnection. So we really need to make that kind of tie in and make it work. So I'm going to go in and point cut some more to lighten up. But we're looking at the length here. And I want you to kind of see that length. And when we look at the picture, so if you want to go to the one that shows more of a front angle, when you look at this is a lot shorter than this. So we're going to go in and create that texture that you're seeing in that haircut using some dry cutting techniques here. So we're going to lighten the top. Oh, why this is so loose today. There we go. And now I know where I want it to fall. I want it to fall at her chin. So all of these pieces, I'm going to start doing our tease cutting technique that we show quite a bit. And it's a half close of the scissor and really teasing into the hair, which helps kind of shatter and break up the lines that you're creating. So in the top of this haircut, I really want to build in a lot of texture. So we're going to be pretty severe with, you know, the amount of teasing that we're doing. So you can start to see that coming a bit. And this is not Michelle Williams, so this isn't going to look, but the haircut will be similar. And with this part, so this is the big kind of disconnect that falls over. So I don't want to make that too short. Plus, if you want this to wrap all the way around and not fall in her face all day, you really don't, you want to have some of that length in there. Through. I'm going to do a little bit tease cutting in the back with this disconnection here. So I'm just pinching the hair and going through and adding that texture in.
I think one of these last steps is really, I mean, I remember when I first started doing these, it just looked so mullety. And not until I found out how to finish a haircut did they look, you know, super clean and nice. Which again, I think for like, you know, beginners is what really they should be paying most attention to.
Well, yeah, and you're cutting in, you know, the texture in the haircut, or you're cutting in the structure of the haircut first, right? And then you're going through and you're then putting in the details and all of that. So we have our structure, we had our structure that has, you know, the disconnections built into it, but those disconnections are still heavy. They still need to be cut. So that's, you know, what we're doing now is just going through and fine tuning every little bit of the haircut. So now I want to go through, add that texture. Yep, extreme close-up.
Your hair looks nice.
Thanks. I know a guy. So a little bit of the Carve, which is like a cream texture-based product from Mercado, which I really like. I'm going to work that through the hair. And then you can really start to see all those pieces that we cut and everything kind of come into life at that point. Really want this to come over. Questions on there? I want to show. So you guys can see kind of how it tucks in here. Nice natural neckline. We have the disconnection. And then this part coming up over and wrapping around the head. And that's really, the basis of the haircut. It's a mannequin. It's a little bit tough. Some things I'd like to change, but I think we have to do hair now. So, but that's pretty much the overall feel of the haircut. So if you guys have any questions, anybody have any questions?
No, we've pretty much been handling them as they
Chatting
go.
them up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. This is the 10th week we've been doing this, so we'll be back next week with another class. We'll see if you guys have any suggestions for that class. Post them in the comments below. Also follow us on our social media community on Facebook. If you go to our website, just hit community or look up Free Salon Education Community on Facebook. And make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, and you'll know all the alerts and everything on all these videos that are coming out. We'll see you guys tonight on our live video podcast, Splitting Hairs. It'll be at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, so hopefully you can catch it. Anything else?
No, I think we're pretty solid.
See you tonight.
All right, we'll see you guys tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.